We begin in Kostiantynivka, a town that has become one of the most fiercely contested points on the Eastern Front. Soldiers of the 425th Separate Assault Regiment, known by its call sign Skelya, say they have cleared the town of Russian forces and raised the Ukrainian flag over the newly liberated ground. Footage released by the unit shows fighting not only in Kostiantynivka itself, but in the nearby village of Ilanivka, just south of the town's outskirts. In the video, Ukrainian troops can be seen using FPV drones to strike Russian infantry positions in both built-up and open terrain, followed by soldiers planting the flag at several locations along their advance.
Маємо честь доповісти, 425-й полк «Скеля» бойове завдання виконав. Українське місто Константинівка знову під синьо-жовтим прапором. Працюємо далі до повного звільнення України. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
But holding this ground is proving to be its own battle. On July 18th alone, Ukrainian forces recorded 19 separate Russian assaults in the Kostiantynivka sector. Moscow's troops attempted to push forward near Kostiantynivka itself, as well as around Ivanopil and Ilanivka, with additional pressure toward Molocharka and Rusin Yar. For weeks now, small groups of Russian infantry have been slipping into the city and its surrounding suburbs, trying to gain a foothold rather than launching one large, decisive assault. This is not the only front where the Skelya Regiment has been active. A day earlier, on July 17th, the unit says it broke up an attempt by Russian forces to regroup after crossing the border into the Kozacha-Lopan area of the Kharkiv region. The regiment also reports that it has fully cleared a stretch of the state border near the village of Herniv. Once that mission was complete, soldiers carried out something just as important as the assault itself. They pulled out a group of Ukrainian servicemen who had been holding a defensive position in the area for 18 straight days.
На той стороне стоит 32 позиции пилотов. Выехать туда бронированной техникой, тем же самым казаком, МК и все.
Пару слов, це ці пацани, які казачку звільняли, блін. Пацанки, респект. Оце дивіться, це пацани, які казачу лопань звільняли. Пацани, подяка. Подяка, братан.
Elsewhere on the battlefield, the 33rd Assault Regiment has been testing a new tool in urban combat, a ground-based robotic system called the Droid TW, armed with a 12.7mm weapon. According to the unit, the machine allowed Ukrainian troops to pin Russian soldiers down inside their own positions, buying time for strike drones to finish the job. It's a small but telling sign of how unmanned systems are reshaping the way this war is fought, position by position. Roughly 100 kilometers north, in the Kharkiv region, Ukrainian forces are locked in a different kind of fight around Kupiansk. The Russian approach looks less like a frontal assault and more like a slow, grinding infiltration. Small infantry groups are attempting to slip into built-up areas of the city rather than attacking in force. In response, Ukraine's defense forces are running continuous counter-sabotage operations, tracking down these infiltration groups, engaging them and gradually pushing them back out of the neighborhoods where they've managed to gain a temporary presence.
Оружие вперед, руки вперед! Не вижу рук! Автомат в окно выбрасывай, сказал! Давай, выходи! Руки выше, блядь! Туда пошел прямо! Точно один?
Поднимай сюда! Или вниз, руки на голову!
Сидишь. В этом доме. Какая задача была? Ну что вы сказали, когда вы сюда? Какую боевую задачу?
Commanders in the sector say the priority right now is firepower. Specifically, more strike-capable unmanned systems to support the troops on the ground. Ukrainian officials say they have identified who is responsible for meeting that need and have laid out a plan for keeping frontline units supplied according to their most urgent requirements.
Бульдог! Пацаны, птичка! Бульдог візьми! Передай бульдог туди далі!
In the Kramatorsk direction, Russian forces are trying to seize the initiative using fiber-optic FPV drones that has become increasingly difficult to counter. Unlike traditional FPV drones, these are connected to their operators by a thin physical cable instead of a radio signal. That makes them immune to the electronic warfare systems Ukraine has relied on to jam and disable enemy drones. According to Olha Kosenko, spokesperson for the 56th Mariupol Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade, Russian forces are using these fiber-optic drones primarily to target one thing: Ukraine's supply lines that keep frontline units fed, armed, and equipped.
Парковка біля качалки. Тільки що відпрацювала оптика по машині. Тільки що відпрацювала оптика по машині. Ось, бляха, ця кончена оптика. Розфігачила машину нормально. Це труба.
At the same time, Russian forces continue to lean heavily on artillery against Ukrainian infantry positions. Kosenko notes that this is possible in part because Russia is not currently facing a shortage of long-range ammunition, a sharp contrast to earlier phases of the war when Russian gun crews were forced to ration their shells. While Ukrainian troops fight to hold Kostiantynivka on the ground, the town itself is becoming almost impossible to reach. Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, and Drushkivka, the cities and towns that form the logistical backbone of this part of the front, are now being hit by guided aerial bombs and drone strikes on a near-daily basis. As a direct result, evacuating civilians out of Kostiantynivka by vehicle has become effectively impossible. Pavlo Dyachenko, head of the communications department for the Donetsk Regional Police, described the situation bluntly. Russian drones are striking vehicles indiscriminately, including civilian cars. It makes no difference to Russian forces where a strike lands. The attacks have simply been continuing since early morning. He also reported that a kindergarten in Kramatorsk was destroyed the previous night. In his assessment, the intent behind these strikes is straightforward: to destroy, to ruin, and to kill. Because of the security situation, police say it is currently not possible to reach Kostiantynivka by road at all, which also rules out organizing any vehicle-based evacuation of the civilians still inside the town. Kramatorsk and Sloviansk are facing near-constant attacks as well, but local authorities in both cities say they are managing to keep basic services running. Utility crews are working to clear the aftermath of each strike and restore damaged infrastructure as quickly as conditions allow. A daily cycle of destruction and repair that has become routine for residents of Ukraine's eastern cities. Away from the front lines themselves, Ukraine's domestic security service is reporting significant results from its own specialized units. Fighters from the security service of Ukraine's Alfa Special Operations Center say they have been carrying out a sustained campaign combining long-range precision strikes on Russian military targets with the daily elimination of enemy personnel across multiple sectors of the front. According to the unit, in just the first half of this year, Alpha operators eliminated or struck more than 50,000 Russian occupiers, a figure Ukrainian officials say continues to climb with each passing day. Support for Ukraine's war effort extends well beyond its own borders. In the United Kingdom, government figures show that more than 68,000 Ukrainian military personnel have now completed training programs since the start of the full-scale invasion. The figures were confirmed by the British Ministry of Defence in response to a parliamentary question from a Labour Member of Parliament. Louise Sanders-Jones, the UK's Minister for the Armed Forces, confirmed that more than 60,000 Ukrainians have completed their training to date. The bulk of that number comes through Operation Interflex, the UK-led training program launched in the summer of 2022. Interflex is designed primarily for recruits with little or no prior combat experience, teaching the fundamentals handling small arms, administering first aid under pressure, and fighting in urban environments and trench systems.
Хорошо. Выстрел!
Выстрел! Выстрел!
С колена. Та же самая мишень. Готов?
Да.
Выстрел!
Выстрел!
Вот. Хорошо, пішла. Поправку надо было взять. Правду?
In the south, Ukraine's 225th Separate Assault Battalion has delivered a significant blow to Russian operations in the Zaporizhzhia sector, one measured not in territory but in prisoners. Ukrainian forces say they captured 64 Russian occupiers in the area around the settlements of Ternuvate, Kosivseve, Rizhvianka, Verkhnya Tersa, and Vozvezhivka. According to Ukrainian accounts, the captured Russian units had been ordered to slip unnoticed into the rear of Ukrainian positions. Their objective wasn't open combat, they were tasked with reconnaissance, hunting for Ukrainian drone operator crews and staging a very specific piece of propaganda, planting Russian flags in the area to produce videos falsely suggesting the villages had been captured. Instead, the operation ended with 64 additional prisoners added to Ukraine's pool for future exchanges, a meaningful gain for the families of Ukrainian soldiers currently held in Russian captivity.
Поправиться хочу. Просто заправиться.
Да, да.
Здесь не видать. Сюди. Присіли. Присіли. Все нормально.
We close this update in southern Ukraine, where Russia launched a large-scale, multi-region attack that left several people dead and dozens wounded. The strikes hit the Odessa, Mykolaiv, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia regions, using a mix of missiles, guided aerial bombs, attack drones, and artillery.